Allow me to start with a simple situation. Imagine you're working with a powerful AI model, something like LLaMA, trained on billions of parameters. It can already do amazing things, write content, generate code, answer questions. But now you want to customize it. Maybe you want it to explain concepts like a teacher, adapt to a specific domain, or respond in a particular tone. So naturally, you think, I'll just fine-tune the model. But here's the catch. Fine-tuning doesn't mean making a few small changes. It means updating every single parameter in the model. And when I say every parameter, I mean billions of them. Welcome to this video, and if you're new here, welcome to the channel. In this video, we are going to deeply understand how modern large language models are actually fine-tuned, not just at a surface level, but in a way where you truly get the intuition behind it. And today, we're starting with one of the most important questions. What does fine-tuning means, and why does something like LoRA even exist? We'll try to make this more intuitive. So think of a model as a huge textbook, thousands of pages packed with knowledge. Now suppose you want to improve a few explanation or fix a few sections. What would you do? Would you rewrite the entire book from scratch? Or would you just add a few corrections notes wherever needed? Traditional fine-tuning is like rewriting the entire book, even if your changes are small. And that is where the real problem begins. Because updating billions of parameters is not cheap. It requires high GPU memory, a lot of computation, and storing an entire new model or the new version of the model. For example, even a 7 billion parameter model can require tens of gigabytes of memory just for training. And as the model gets bigger, this quickly becomes impossible for most people. But here's a key insight, and this is something you really need to understand. When we fine-tune a model, we're not teaching it everything again. The model already knows language, structure, reasoning. We are only making small adjustment. We are slightly changing its behavior or adding specific knowledge or basically modifying its style. So now think about this. If the change we need is small, why are we updating everything? Why touch billions of parameters just to make a small correction? And this exact led to a very powerful idea. Instead of modifying the entire model, what if we only learned a small change on top of it? And that idea is called LoRA, or low rank adaptation. So in this video, we'll break this ideas down step by step, and you'll see how we can reduce training from millions of parameters to just a tiny fraction of that. So we've understood the problem. Full fine-tuning updates everything, even when we only need small changes. So now the question is, how do we mathematically represent this idea of small change? So let's start with something simple. Inside a neural network, everything comes down to matrices. So at any layer, you typically have a weight matrix. Let's call it W. So this matrix is responsible for transforming inputs. So during inference, what happens is something like this. Input times weight equals to output. Now, when we do traditional fine-tuning, we modify this matrix. So W becomes a new matrix, W dash. So this simply means that the model has learned new values for all the weights. But here is a better way to think about it. Instead of saying we replace W with a completely new matrix, W bar, we can say we took the original W and added some change to it. So mathematically, we write it as the following here. Now this equation is extremely important. Let's break it down clearly. Here, W is the original pre-trained matrix. This already contains all the knowledge the model learned during pre-training. While W dash is the updated matrix after fine-tuning, and this particular term here, this is the key part. This represents the change we are learning. Now, think about what we discussed earlier. We are not trying to relearn everything. We're only making small adjustment, which means this value is not some huge, completely random matrix. It actually contains structured, meaningful, and relatively small changes. So this shifts our entire perspective. Instead of focusing on learning this W dash directly, we can only focus on learning this term here. And now comes the most important question. Is this term really as complex as this? Does it really need billions of parameters? And the short answer is no. We don't need it. In fact, in most real cases, these updates lie in a much smaller space. This means this particular term here can be approximated using simpler structures. Let's build some intuition here. So imagine W is a massive 4096 by 4096 matrix. That's around 16 million parameters. Now, if del W or this term also had the same size, we're back to the same problem. We didn't save anything here. But what if the changes we care about lie in a smaller subspace? And that is where LoRA introduces a very clever idea. So instead of learning this directly, we approximate it as the product of two smaller matrices. So instead of storing one huge matrix, we store two tiny ones. And mathematically, we can write it as this particular formula here. Now let's understand what this really means. Here, A is a tall, thin matrix, whereas B is a short, wide matrix. And in between, we have something called rank, denoted by R. This R is very small compared to the original dimension. So instead of learning millions of parameters, we now learned only a few thousand. And here's the beauty of this idea. Even though A and B are small, the product can still create meaningful, structured updates. Not random noise, but targeted connections. Let's connect this back to our intuition. Think of W as the original textbook, and del W is the correction. So instead of rewriting entire chapter, you're adding a few well-placed notes. Those notes don't need to be as large as the book, but they can still completely change how the content is interpreted. The full picture now becomes we keep W frozen, we only learn A and B, and during computation, we reconstruct del W as the multiplication of A and B and add it to W here, as we did earlier. And this is the core mathematical idea behind LoRA. Not complicated, but extremely powerful. So, before moving forward, make sure you're clear on three things. First, this particular term is just a smarter way to think about fine-tuning. Next, this represents only the change, not the full knowledge. And third, we don't learn this term directly. We approximate it using two smaller matrices. So in the next part, we'll go deeper into this idea of rank. What does low rank actually mean? And why does this work so well in practice? And that's where the real intuition unlocks. Alright, now we're going to tackle one of the most important ideas in LoRA. And that is, what does low rank actually means? So let's not start with definitions. Let's build intuition first. Imagine you have a large matrix. For example, something like 4096 by 4096. Now this matrix can represent extremely complex transformation. It has full freedom. It can map inputs in any possible way. Now, here's the key idea. Not all transformations are complex. Some transformations are actually very simple, even if the matrix is large. For example, if I scale inputs, or slightly rotate them, or shift them in a consistent direction, these are simple transformations. They don't require full complexity. And this is exactly what rank captures. Rank tells us how complex is the transformation inside this matrix. A high rank matrix means high complexity, high flexibility, and many independent directions of transformation, while a low rank matrix means limited complexity, structured behavior, and fewer independent patterns. Now, we'll connect this to LoRA. We said earlier, this del W is the change we want to learn. Now, the big question is, do we really need a full high rank matrix to represent this change? Well, no. Because most fine-tuning changes are simple. We're not reinventing the model, we're simply nudging it slightly. So instead of learning a full complex del W, we constrain it to be low rank. Mathematically, this is written as the following equation here. Here, A has shape d by r and B has shape r by d, where r is assumed to be very small. You can think of this as two-step transformation. First, B compresses the entire input into smaller space, then A expands it back to the original dimension. So instead of allowing all possible transformation, we are forcing the model to learn changes through a narrow bottleneck. And that bottleneck is the rank R. Here's a possible way to visualize it. Imagine your data lives in a huge high-dimensional space. Full fine-tuning allows movement in every possible direction. But LoRA says, no, you can only move in a few directions. And surprisingly, those few directions are enough. Why? Because real-world objects are not random. They're structured and they follow patterns. For example, changing tone from formal to casual, or adapting to a domain like medical or legal, or aligning responses to a specific style. These changes don't require full freedom. They lie in a smaller subspace. So by using low-rank decomposition, we're not restricting the model too much. We're actually removing unnecessary freedom. And this is why LoRA works so well. Let's connect everything together now. Full fine-tuning means learning a full matrix del W, which takes high cost, high memory, and full flexibility. While LoRA approximates del W as the multiplication of matrix A and B, low cost, low memory, and control flexibility. And the rank R becomes a hyperparameter, where small r means more efficient and less flexibility, while larger R means more expressive but more parameters. So choosing R is about balance. Enough capacity to learn meaningful changes, but small enough to stay efficient. And this is the core intuition behind low rank. Not just a mathematical trick, but a very smart constraint based on how learning actually works. In the next part, we'll make this even more concrete. We'll look at how many parameters we actually save and why this leads to massive efficiency gains in practice. And that's where things become really eye-opening. Alright, so let's quantify this with a simple example. Assume we have a weight matrix W of size 4096 by 4096. In a full fine-tuning, we need to learn the entire update matrix del W. So the total number of parameters almost becomes 16 million. Now, if we apply LoRA here, instead of learning del W directly, we decompose it into smaller matrices A and B. And then we'll choose a small rank, let's say 8. Now, the sizes are A is 4096 by 8 and B is 8 by 4096. So the total parameters become almost 65,536. That's just 65,000 parameters. So we go from 16 million to 65,000 parameters. And that's the power of LoRA. Massive reduction with minimal changes to performance. Now there are two final pieces that complete the full picture of LoRA. And these are not about new concepts. They are just about control and practicality. Let's start with alpha here. So far, we've said we learn a small weight del W using A and B, and then we add it to the original weights. But here's an important question. How much influence should this update have? Because think about it. If del W is too large, it can completely override the original model behavior. If it's too small, it might not have any meaningful effect. So we need a way to control this, and that's exactly what alpha does. Here, alpha is a scaling factor. It controls the strength of this particular learned weight. You can think of it like a volume knob. A and B learn the direction of change, and alpha identifies how loud that change can be, or change should be. In practical, alpha is usually set relative to rank R. So even if we use a small rank, we can still control how impactful the update is. And this gives a very nice balance. small number of parameters, but controlled influence. Now, let's move to the final piece, which is adapter merging. So during training, we might keep things separate. The original weights W, frozen, and the LoRA update A and B. The separation is very useful because we're only training small matrices, which keeps everything efficient. But what happens during inference? Do we always compute A times B and add it on the fly? We can, but we don't have to. Instead of that, we can merge everything into a single matrix, which is W final. So W final behaves exactly like a fully fine-tuned model. No extra computation, no separate components. And this is powerful because after merging, there is no difference between LoRA and full fine-tuning at inference time. And it can also give flexibility. You can keep adapters separate for modularity or merge them together for optimized deployment. And that completes the full picture of LoRA. We started with a massive problem, updating billions of parameters, and step by step, we reduced it to learning two smaller matrices, controlling their impact with alpha, and optionally merging everything back into a single model. Efficient, scalable, and practical. And that is why LoRA is one of the most important techniques in modern AI fine-tuning. Alright, so that brings us to the end of this video. By now, you should have a clear understanding of why full fine-tuning is inefficient, how LoRA introduces a smarter approach, and how we can drastically reduce parameters without losing effectiveness. If you found this video helpful, make sure to like the video and subscribe to the channel, because in the upcoming videos, we're going to build step by step into a complete mastery of modern fine-tuning techniques. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.